If you're thinking about moving to Spring Hill, Florida from out of state, there's a few things that you absolutely need to know. Things that some buyers might not find out until after they close on their home. I'm going to break it down real simple and be super straightforward. And if you don't know already, my name is Frankie Gomez. I'm a realtor with eXp Realty in the Tampa Bay area. And as always, if you have any questions or interest in moving here, you can reach me directly using the contact information in the description below. Also, if you enjoyed this content, please click that subscribe button for future videos and like this video as it really helps support the channel. All right, so in this video, we're going to cover 5 different things that you should know before moving to Spring Hill, just to pretty much save you time because there might be a deal breaker in here. But we'll talk about everything and then you guys can let me know what you think in the comments and you can reach me directly if you have any questions. So for the first one, we're going to talk about septic tanks. Most of Spring Hill is septic. So you will have exceptions, obviously, like I live in a community, an HOA community where they developed everything, they connected to the sewer. So I'm on sewer. And one of the biggest differences is that I pay like $40 a month for my water and sewer compared to if you're on septic, you're probably only going to pay like maybe $10 to $20 a month for your water bill. So for a lot of people that move to Spring Hill, this is a pretty big surprise because if you live closer to a metro or a city, then you're probably used to sewer. So the biggest thing to know about septic tanks is that you have to get them pumped. You should probably expect to get them pumped between 3 and 5 years, but if you're in like a 2-bathroom house with 5 people, then you probably would be looking more at like 2 to 3 years. So that's just something to be conscious of because you don't want to constantly have it full. It could probably cause some issues. I'm not a septic expert, but it's recommended to get it done. And you'll probably know when you need to get it done, but it's really not too expensive either. It used to be cheaper. It used to be like $200 to get it pumped. It's probably closer to $300 to $400 now. So a pretty minimal cost. And if you actually do the difference between the sewer cost and the septic pumping every few years, it probably evens out if I had to guess, if not cheaper to have septic. It really just depends on how frequently you have to get it pumped. And a new septic field and drain field, I've gotten a quote recently. I think it was like 3 or 4,000. But we only got one quote, so we didn't really, compare too many. But yeah, that's one thing to just keep in mind when you're buying a home. If it's on septic, you probably want to get it inspected. They'll take a look at the tank. They'll actually pump it. We'll look at the level first and make sure that it's draining properly to the drain field. And then if everything looks good there, they pump it and they check out the tank. They look and make sure there's no cracking and everything like that. Supposedly the tanks can last like 50 years. The drain field's a little bit shorter, maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20. Don't hold me to that. I'm not an inspector. I'm not a plumber. So yeah, we would obviously get the inspection done and get their opinion on it. But overall, the biggest takeaway here is that septic tanks are in the majority of Spring Hill, about 70 to 80% of homes. You will have sewer if you're in an HOA community or in a development where they actually built the sewer and connected it. Other than that, though, there will be some other homes that are maybe closer to major roads that aren't in an HOA community that would be connected to sewer. But if you're looking anywhere in like central Spring Hill or even like north Weeki Wachee, Brooksville, south of County Line, which I could show you real quick right here. So pretty much anywhere north of Spring Hill up here is going to be septic. Spring Hill in general will be a mixed bag. And then Brooksville to the east, and majority of places over here, excluding Hernando Beach, will be septic as well. And then you have south of County Line down here, which will also be all septic. So Spring Hill's kind of a mixed bag because you have communities within Spring Hill that will be on sewer, but majority of Spring Hill will be on septic. Okay, so moving on to point 2, we're going to talk about sinkholes. Yes, sinkholes do exist in Florida and specifically in Hernando, Pasco, Hillsborough County. We're actually among the top counties for reported sinkholes in Florida, but there is a little bit of a misunderstanding when it comes to sinkholes because Just because you're buying a home in Spring Hill does not mean you're at risk of a sinkhole or the home has a sinkhole or had a sinkhole. But one thing I do want to cover first, I guess, is the kind of the verbiage around it. So if you see like a property on Zillow that says repaired sinkhole or remediated sinkhole or repaired settlement, remediated settlement, it all just means that at one point there was settlement at the home and an insurance company most likely paid out the homeowner to get it fixed, kind of like a roof claim. So you know how, oh, well, maybe you don't know because you're not from Florida, but in Florida, if we have like a windstorm or something, and roofing companies will go around, knock on doors, and try and get the homeowner to put in a claim if they have some damage, even if it's very minimal damage, just to get the job and get a new roof put on. The insurance company pays for it, the company gets paid, everybody's happy type of thing. This is kind of what happened with sinkholes. So insurance companies do not cover sinkhole repairs anymore. You will not find a company that will repair a sinkhole property. And it's kind of funny because as soon as that happened, you stopped seeing new sinkholes popped up. You stopped seeing as many sinkhole trucks and concrete trucks pumping houses with grout. So it's definitely something that was kind of inflated a little bit because you had sinkhole companies going around investigating, getting engineers out to look for these sinkhole properties, and meanwhile everybody's getting paid for this. So they would find cracking around windowsills, cracking around doors, so maybe some cracking in the actual stucco or concrete block, and then they would put in an insurance claim. They would find pretty much enough evidence to get a claim put in and claim approved, and they would get the insurance payout, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then they would get the sinkhole repaired, or they wouldn't, and then be designated as an unrepaired sinkhole, and they would pocket the money or repair their homes, add pools, add upgrades, whatever the case was. So it was kind of, misconstrued a little bit. Yes, sinkholes do exist. And the biggest thing to know is that if you are looking at a repaired sinkhole, you can actually get a full report, an investigation report, it's called, where they'll pretty much tell you exactly what they found when they looked for the sinkhole, what evidence they saw of a sinkhole activity, because that's pretty much what they were repairing, sinkhole activity versus an actual hole in the ground. Because most people, when they think sinkhole, they think there was a huge hole in the ground and there probably was a lot of repairs done. But for the most part, if not 95, maybe even 98% of the time, just sinkhole activity or evidence of a sinkhole, and it was precautionary essentially. So they would, put the claim in and get approved. So yeah, we can get, what I was saying was we can get a full report on what actually was happening, what they found, and then also what they did to remediate it. So you have an investigation report and then a remediation report. Or a completion report, and we would look at the completion report, see what they did, investigation report to see what they found. I also have in my guide, my Hernando County moving guide, which is linked in the description below. You can actually find a sinkhole map for Hernando County, and it can show you little red dots about where every sinkhole was, where ones were repaired and unrepaired. And from there, you can kind of see like, oh, I'm looking at this house down the street. Let's look and see if it has any sinkhole activity, and then you can look around the neighborhood to see if there was any claims that were put in or any designations on the county. Another thing I wanted to mention is that sinkhole properties do not see a significant drop in value. Like an unrepaired sinkhole property will, because it could cost you money out of pocket to fix it now because insurance companies don't repair them anymore or don't pay for it anymore. But a property that is remediated will not see a significant drop in value, if any at all. It's fully insurable. Citizens Property Insurance is the insurance company that insures repaired sinkhole properties, and there's probably a few more now. I actually haven't done one in a while, so that kind of tells you how frequently you can come across a repaired sinkhole. I would say it's like a 20 to 30% chance if I had to put a number on it, just off the top of my head. So you can get insurance for a repaired sinkhole through Citizens. For unrepaired, there are probably very minimal companies, if any, that would insure. It's kind of just a thing where you say you can't really get insurance until it's repaired, but you will see a significant drop in value if you have an unrepaired sinkhole property, because that designation causes a lot of fear and uncertainty for some people. Even if the investigation report showed like it was like on the backyard of the house and it was 5 by 5 feet, like it doesn't matter for some reason. So that actually could be an opportunity if you have cash because you can't finance most likely can't finance it. There might be some loan types that would allow it, like maybe an FHA renovation loan, but um, I really haven't looked into that. But it might be opportunity if you have cash to buy a repaired single property, or sorry, an unrepaired single property, and then repair it yourself with cash, because obviously, again, insurance companies will not cover it. All right, moving on to number 3, which is flood zones and flood insurance. So Spring Hill is not like coastal Florida. Most of Spring Hill is not a flood zone. Now you do have an exceptions or some exceptions when it comes to being close to like ponds or lakes or wetlands in Florida or in Spring Hill or Brooksville, Weeki Wachee. More likely in Weeki Wachee and Brooksville compared to Spring Hill because it's more rural in those areas. So you'll find like wetlands and stuff like that, where kind of water propagates and stuff. But overall, Spring Hill is more inland and higher elevation than Tampa and Pasco areas. So you will see less flood zones and also lower flood insurance, or not flood insurance, but lower insurance in general. So the things you want to look for, which I would obviously help with if you were looking for a home in Spring Hill, is the flood zone code. So you have X500, which is very rare, A, AE, V, and VE. Anything A or V, you will be required to hold flood insurance by your lender. And then anything in X500, it would not be required to hold flood insurance. So that's a good thing to know, and it's probably pretty relevant. There's only a handful of homes at any given time that would probably require flood insurance, but still good to know. Look for the flood zone X code. If you don't use me as your realtor, because I will check this immediately at every home you send me, ask your realtor what the flood zone code is. So yeah, that is flood zones and flood insurance. It's not like coastal Florida. You will not be required to hold flood insurance like in other areas more closer to the water. And that brings us to property insurance. Property insurance is lower than Tampa but higher than the Midwest because of those reasons I mentioned. Tampa's more coastal. There's more risk for insurance companies, and it's also just more expensive there. And you probably will have lower rates in the Midwest if that's where you're coming from. So comparatively speaking, Spring Hill's insurance premiums run 20 to 40% lower than Hillsborough. I mean, I just did like, I don't know, 3 homes where the quote was under $1,500 per year. So maybe $110 or whatever that comes out to per month, which is really good. Obviously, the biggest factors for home insurance in Florida is your roof. If you can get a full wind mitigation report and get all the discounts, depending on the roof age, you get certain discounts by doing a wind mitigation report. It comes with every home inspection, and you can get discounts that significantly lower your home insurance. If you have an older roof, that's when things get a little bit more steep. So I always tell my clients the biggest thing that you want to look for is the major 4-point items, especially the roof, because not only is the roof probably the most expensive component that you have to worry about when you buy a home, it's also the biggest factor when it comes to insurance. Also, the age of the home is a big factor as well. Newer homes with newer roofs will have significantly lower insurance rates, especially if the home was built in the last 10 years. You'll definitely be probably within around $100 a month for homeowners insurance. And then also just factoring it into your budget, we could get a quote from the insurance company before we even make offers or even look at homes. I mean, obviously you probably don't want to go that deep. You probably want to look at the home, make sure you like it, and then do some due diligence up front, like insurance. And then we also would have an inspection period or a due diligence period to get quotes and do all that stuff as well. Number 5 is HOAs, which is actually not as common as other areas, like especially like Wesley Chapel or Lutz, Odessa, like areas a little bit more south. Most of Spring Hill is not in an HOA, but that does not mean that there aren't communities. I actually live in an HOA community. There are communities that are available, and we have a range of cost for those communities. For example, I pay $50 a month where I live, compared to maybe some master plan communities like Waterford, for example, which is a new D.R. Horton community. That community has a very minimal HOA. I think it's like $200 per year, but then they have a CDD fee, Community Development District fees, which is put on by the developer, and those are range from 1,800 to 2,500 per year. So that adds, roughly $200 per month with the HOA and the CDD to your payment. And then we also have regular homes outside of HOAs. So you have zero HOA, you have minimal HOA communities, which could be for anywhere from like $10 to $50 a month, maybe like even 120 per month. And usually those will come with pools or clubhouses or golf course. And then you have the full master plan community, which maybe has golf, pool, courts, playground, dog parks, all that stuff, and that would be HOA plus CDD, which could be anywhere from $1,500 up to $4,000, maybe even $5,000 per year. But that's a little bit. I would say the average is probably closer to $100 a month. But yeah, it's just going to depend on the community you're specifically looking at. The biggest thing to know here is that you have options. You have HOA communities, you have non-HOA communities, but the majority of Spring Hills homes are outside of HOA communities, which is a big plus for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like HOAs. I personally think it's a trade-off. You have pros and cons for both. For example, in an HOA community, yes, everybody's homes will look good. You'll be well kept. You might have some amenities that you pay for that are really enjoyable and might work for you. But you also could find, have a neighbor that is super strict and is reporting you for maybe silly things or things that aren't that big of a deal. You also could have certain restrictions on paint colors, designs, certain things that you can do to your home. Can you add a shed to the backyard? Can you add an extension? Can you add a patio of this size? There's, all the restrictions, and we would look through the deed restrictions and the bylaws to make sure that you can do the things that you would want to do to the home. On the flip side, though, outside of a community, you might have, people on your street or people nearby that don't take care of their homes. So it really just depends what's big, what's important to you. If you want that freedom to be able to do whatever you want to your house, not have anybody kind of dictate what you can do, then obviously no HOA is probably the route to go. If you want everything to be very, well taken care of and well maintained, then an HOA might be what you're looking for. So we do have both options, and that's the point of this. The point of this point is that you have HOA and non-HOA and even master plan communities available in Hernando County. That wraps up this video. Again, if you have any questions or interest in moving to Hernando County, you can reach me directly using the contact information in the description below. Also, can get a copy of my free Hernando County moving guide. And if you enjoyed this content, click the like button, click the subscribe button for future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.